Heyo, and welcoming you guys to another movie discussion today. We are here to talk about a brand new horror movie titled Hokum, starring the Severance actor Adam Scott. So, in the beginning of this video, I'm going to talk about whether or not I recommend this movie or don't recommend it, and then I will give you guys a brief plot rundown. I'll try my best not to spoil anything until the later half of this video, where I will share my unfettered thoughts. So, you've been forewarned. So, just to rip off the band-aid, do I recommend this movie to the average person? And I would say, yeah, why not? I found the premise of this movie pretty engaging. I thought the characters were pretty well done. And of course, the scares were scares. Funny, I feel like in the past 3 to 4 years, a lot of horror movies have started veering away from, the traditional jump scares, audio scares, and etc. But this movie, they really lean into it. They hit you with the whole kit and caboodle. You got everything you could imagine coming in hot here. And you really do get jump scares from start to finish, which some people might like, some people might not like. There's one scare in particular that actually got me. Generally, because I play so many damn random horror games, because I watch so many horror movies, I like to imagine myself as a wall of steel. But with that being said, there was one time in this movie that kind of got me, man. And again, it was one of those, pop-up scares. I was like, whoa, geez. I wasn't expecting so many, brother. So yeah, in terms of scares, I thought it was all there. And again, if you just wanted a simple recommendation on whether or not you should take your significant other out to the movies, this is your sign. Hokum was a pretty enjoyable watch, and because there were so many twists and turns with the plot, I thought it was pretty fun. I think it would make a great date night, and of course, it's only an hour and a half long, so you can't really go wrong with a runtime like that. Alright, so here's the story in a nutshell. Our main character, aka Adam Scott, goes to a secluded Ireland hotel because his parents honeymooned there oh so long ago. He's there to spread their ashes among the trees and lay them to rest. This is when he stumbles upon a really cute bartender named Fiona. He ends up taking a liking to her, things happen, and wouldn't you know it, Fiona goes missing. And because Adam Scott likes her, he is on the hunt. He tracks down the local town crazy, and the town crazy says, hey, Fiona is actually in the hotel you're staying in. There's this locked off honeymoon suite there, and that is where she must have gone. That's where she's actually at. And this all came to him in the form of a vision. Funny enough, earlier in the movie, we did hear about this honeymoon suite, and there's a rumor that a witch was locked up in that room oh so long ago. But of course, because nobody's really been in the room, nobody can really validate that claim or not. It's just a rumor amongst the hotel guests and the owner. So, of course, you know what Adam Scott does. He does go into the hotel room, and that is when everything hits the fan. I don't want to get into spoilers right away, but that right there is the gist of the movie. And as far as how entertaining the story is, like I said, I was pretty engaged. I wanted to know what was going to happen next, but I will admit, near the end of the movie, I felt like it started to lose its luster a little bit. Once you really unraveled everything and figured out how things work in this hotel room, that's when I was like, okay, it's cool. I'm still interested, but near like the last 20% of the movie, it's not really scary anymore. Most of the scares happen halfway through the movie, and I'm pretty okay with that. I think the main reason why the movie loses the horror factor near the end is simply because of the premise and the creature-monster we're dealing with in this movie, right? You're coming in expecting a witch, and of course, a witch is more or less what you get. And witches in general, right? Unless you're talking about the Blair Witch, not really super scary. Some of the effects, I will admit, were not the best near the end. Near the end, it kind of got Looney Tunes-esque, but it'd be like that sometimes, right? So that is pretty much it for my, non-spoilery description of the movie. Again, I do recommend it. I thought it was a really fun watch. It chalked up some good conversations near the end. And one thing that was really surprising, though, one thing that really caught me off guard, minus, the twist halfway through the movie, is Adam Scott's character. Generally, in most movies, I was about to say horror movies, but no. In most movies, you follow a likable character. Not the case here in Hokum, which is what they're going for. Adam Scott's character is an asshole. There's no other way to really describe him other than that. Like, start of the movie to the end of the movie, Adam Scott's character, I wouldn't say he's unlikable, because I do like him, but he's an asshole. He doesn't try to be anything else. He is who he is, and there's not really any character growth there. Not like they're trying for it, but it was really jarring to see. And at first, I think a lot of people in the movie were like, kind of taken aback by this. But near the end, just seeing Adam Scott being an asshole was kind of funny. And the whole theater kind of laughed at some of the moments he had in the finale. But yes, again, that is my non-spoiler review for the movie. Time to get into spoilers. If you do not want to be spoiled, click away now. Or, forever hold your tongue or whatever they say. So, the witch. She's not that scary. The witch was scary initially. Whenever she was, popping out of corners, chasing him through the rooms. That was like, oh my God, like that's, Jesus, dude, run faster, man. But near the end, after you realize how to beat the witch, which, all you do is really just draw a circle and she can't get inside the circle. Once you realize that's the thing, and once you realize she's just an old lady, whenever you see her, it's not really scary anymore. And like I said, my cope is that that's just how witches are. They have that initial fear factor when they're throwing, miasma your way, you're seeing hallucinations. That's crazy. But when you really boil it down, it's just an old lady walking in the dark. So yeah, like I said, near the end for me, it lost a lot of the horror factor. But as far as the scene that got me, though, because I mentioned that earlier, right? One scene really, like, I wouldn't say I was, like, yelping for dear life, but one moment that kind of, like, got me to jump a little bit was when Adam Scott was going around locking the doors. Not when he was being chased, but he was just going around. He initially got locked in the honeymoon suite, and his mom popped up behind him and was just like this. And I was like, oh, my God. It was just one of those scares that I didn't expect. I was like, oh man, how often do we have like a door scene where he goes through a door and then immediately, literally right behind him, his dead mom? Yeah, pretty crazy. The other scares in the movie were pretty okay. Didn't really get me too much. I will admit, I kind of wish they went with that evil bunny rabbit mask horror thing that they had going on for a minute, which I almost feel catfished, right? Because when you watch the trailer, you see that scene where they're peeking through the curtains and their eyes are like bulging out. That kind of got me. I was like, whoa, that's kind of freaky, dude. But it's only really utilized there and just never again. I really wish this is what the witch looked like, because if this is what the witch looked like, I think the fear factor would have jumped up a little bit more. But that's just me, right? And of course, that is essentially just his childhood trauma, which I think this movie tackled it in a really interesting way. I remember at the beginning, one big mystery was like, oh, wait, are we not going to talk about how he tried to hang himself? Like, was it a ghost that did that? Why is he coming back to the hotel? And you do realize pretty quickly that, oh, he did that to himself. There was no ghost involved. He was talking about himself when he talked about, hey, I would have hung the asshole that, shot my mom. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Adam Scott-Ohm is just a very unique character. And I did appreciate that, right? I liked how they kind of brought in his trauma. Usually when characters have traumas in movies or, these convoluted backstories, I'm not really engaged. But here I was like, oh, that's kind of unique. I thought that was kind of cool. And then, of course, by the end of the movie, his mom's like, hey, it was a mistake. I know, I forgive you. Just go on up there, buddy. And one thing that they threw in this movie, which I had no idea why they did it, but the bellboy who date rape drugged him. Why? I get it, right? Adam Scott's character, again, asshole. Did he deserve it? That's questionable. But they threw that in. And then they added in the whole scene where the homeless guy's like, hey, I only saw those visions because my mind was open. And right there, for a split second, it plays with you. It's like, wait, was the witch in his head? Was all of this in his head? And then he looks down at his wrist. Immediately, he sees the iron chains that were on his hands. And it's like, oh no, it was real. And it's like, okay, like why even add that in? Just to say that the bellboy is getting revenge? I guess. I mean, I'm cool with that. But, they really do just tug your chain for like a split second at the very end of the movie. And I'm not too sure why. Like, hey, this might have been fake. It's not fake. Maybe that was to explain why he saw the rabbit. or why he saw certain things in the hotel room. Like maybe half of it was the drugs, and then the other half was actually the witch. It's really hard to tell. And, you know, with this movie, we do have to suspend disbelief a little bit because he's stuck in that hotel room for, you know, maybe like 24 plus hours, right? The fact that he didn't try to bust through the window at all is kind of beyond me. I get it, right? Reinforced window, there's bars on it, there's wood there. But he didn't even try, man. Like, you know, I don't know. I thought that was kind of crazy. And then, of course, the plot twist about Mao being the main villain. That was kind of whatever. You know, he's like, oh, you know, I can't have a kid. My father will hate me. He'll kill me for this. Okay, so what, you dump this girl into a box and drop her into the basement with the witch? Again, kind of insane that this actually happened. Also, I wouldn't call it a plot hole. But one character that was very underutilized was the owner of the hotel. He was there initially, and he was the one who told us about the witch in the first place. And then just never see him again. And I was kind of taken aback by that. I thought he would play a bigger role because, again, he knows that a witch is actually in there. You know, somebody's been stealing his key, putting it back, stealing his key, putting it back, stealing his key again. It's like, you'd think at some point the owner would show up here and do something about any of this? Nope. You see him once, you see him twice, he's gone. Yeah, I thought that was really strange, but like I said, all of my hangups with the movie are just minor. You know, I love horror movies. I watch all the slop horror movies out there, so maybe I'm giving Hokum too much grace. But again, I did find it pretty damn enjoyable. For an hour and a half, you can't go wrong. You know, if it plays in theaters, if it plays on your streaming site, I say give it a whirl. You know, it is pretty decent. And again, the plot twist was fun, dude. And as far as the scene I talked about earlier in the non-spoiler portion, where it's like, oh yeah, it looked kind of cheap. It was when they dragged the guy to hell. You know, like, I don't know, man. It looked really silly. Like, the guy's being dragged, they open the door, and then it's just like 30 people saying, ah, and they had blue eyes. I don't know. Super corny there, but besides the point, great movie overall. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the movie down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out and stay safe.